Well, welcome back to the Hotel Orloff After Dark. Yes, here at the Hotel Orloff, we have been missing you. So, welcome back to the worst neighborhood in the comic book community. And this isn't just a comic book show, but I say that or whatever. Let's look at some stuff and be entertained, hopefully. Because, before we're through, we'll have music and fun. And if you're not careful, you may learn something before it's done, ladies and gentlemen. So, won't you be my neighbor here in this horrible neighborhood? Rural Retreat, Virginia, historic Rural Retreat, Virginia. So where have I been? I haven't been on YouTube, a week and a half, which is, it's been a long time. Well, I got sick, and then my wife got sick. Well, my wife got sick first, then I got sick, and then she got sick, and when I come home from work, I kind of want to just go to bed and lay down, watch TV, hang out with my wife. So it becomes hard to do live streams on weekday nights, so that's why I haven't been on the Four Color Fossils. I was sick, and then it's just like, because we're new here in Rural Retreat, Virginia, and my wife has some friends in California. She has some friends in Florida, a friend in Florida, some in Alabama, but she hasn't met anyone really here locally that she can hang out with. She doesn't really have any friends, so she's lonely. So I'm like the only person she knows. So when I come home from work, anyway, making excuses. Well, it's Christmas time here, and so I thought, well, could I order like $100? I thought maybe $70, $80 worth of stuff from Gotham City Comics, which is my comic book supplier out in Mesa, Arizona. And my wife said, I guess we could, because it's Christmas. See, we're broke here in Rural Retreat, Virginia. I saw today the Drudge Report, which is very it used to be, that was my go-to, the Drudge Report. But I guess Matt Drudge sold it and allowed them to keep the name, and now it's like complete falsehoods. And it says it says today the stock market's great. There's a little risk of a recession in 2024. The jobless claims are non-existent. Nope, everybody's doing great. The economy's fantastic. That's what they're saying, and then there's the reality around us. And I watch shows on YouTube where people keep showing all these comics they're buying, and I'm thinking, well, is that true? That Bidenomics is doing great? How are these people getting all these comics, man? I'm feeling guilty spending. I wound up spending $99 because it started getting up high, and I said I don't want to go into three digits. So we ended it at $99. And then Kevin, the owner of Gotham City Comics, threw in some extra books, I guess just as a Christmas present. So that's my Christmas present this year. And and the wonderful Charlton66 sent me a Christmas present yesterday. So it is a Merry Christmas here in Rural Retreat. My wife's family was going to follow us here, and then that was as soon as they were going to go back, sell the house, start packing, sell the house, and move here. And then my wife's family and our two nephews were going to live here, right? So then as soon as they got back to Texas, it was like, it's too expensive to live there. Oh, it's too cold. Oh, that house you live in is haunted, and it's like, So I guess they're not coming, but this is a wonderful community with no crime and great everything. Just there's not a lot of stores, no comic stores, which is why I shop at a comic store virtually in Mesa, Arizona. But anyway, let's take a look with no further ado at what we've gotten here at the Hotel Orloff. Yeah, let me grab that stuff. Hold on, let's get some, let's see what we could do here. Okay. Okay. So it's Christmas. I got some more of the Gotham City Comics stickers. You need to call Kevin Johnson at Gotham City Comics and do some shopping there and patronize one of the greatest comic stores of all time. Look, I got a thank you card from the Sea Monkeys. And look at this creature from the Black Lagoon. It's like a fold out or something. Fantastic. Okay. I got the latest issue of Castle of Frankenstein. Now let me tell you a little bit about Castle of Frankenstein. Famous Monsters was, of course, the original monster magazine. And it was so successful when it came out. Was it 57 or 58? I think 58. Let me turn this down a little bit. Will that even make a difference? I'm watching Oregon Jukebox on YouTube. Boy, do you think YouTube could possibly put more commercials on their... they've lately have amped up the commercials on YouTube. I don't know if you've noticed it or not. Because they want you to pay like $20, $30 a month to not have commercials, which we did for a few months, and it was quite wonderful, I have to admit, but we can't afford that in Joe Biden's world. They say Bidenomics is working, but I don't know, man. It doesn't really seem like it's working on me. You tell me. I mean, I feel the misery, but I see all these people on YouTube buying stuff, and here I'm showing you stuff I bought. I think that this is kind of a disgusting format, showing you things and making you want to go buy those things, because in a time like this, I don't really think we should be buying much. We should maybe gold and silver or something. Okay, so Famous Monsters was successful, and Castle of Frankenstein. There was another magazine called Fantastic Monsters of the Films. It was put out by Ron Haydock, and that was a great magazine, but it didn't last long. Castle of Frankenstein started in the early 60s and lasted until about 1975. It ended about the time that Golden Voyage of Sinbad came out, right? Fantastic magazine. Calvin Beck's Castle of Frankenstein. It didn't have a very consistent schedule. There'd be a couple of issues, then it might go a year before the next issue came out. But it was a great magazine. Very literate. Famous Monsters was written for 9-year-olds, but had wonderful graphic design, and everything about Famous Monsters was beautiful. All the photos and everything, no one else could really beat that. But Castle of Frankenstein was literate. Well, somebody brought Castle of Frankenstein back in the 90s, I think Scary Monster magazine, and they did 10 issues that not worth it. This is the third issue of the new revival that started a few months ago. I missed the first one. I got the last one, and then this one I just got, well, I got them a few days ago, but I have not opened any of these yet. Because I've been really busy. Like I say, I come home and all I want to do is just go up to the attic where I sleep and jump in bed. Okay, so my job is to tell you, is this a worthy successor to the original Castle of Frankenstein? Calvin Beck, I'm going to turn this down a little bit, who was behind the original Castle of Frankenstein, was part of a group of friends. You know, there was a group of friends that hung around together into science fiction and horror. And one of the group was Robert Bloch. And he wrote the novel Psycho, mostly based on his friend Calvin Beck, who had this, not just a doting mother, but an overbearing, omnipresent mother that, you know, it's like you invite Calvin Beck to a party, his mother was going to show up, and she was this Eastern European woman with a thick accent. He goes to a college class, she's going to sit in the back of the class and audit it. She's going to go everywhere her son goes. And he was a little bit of an odd guy. And so Robert Bloch, you say, well, I've always heard that Robert Bloch based Psycho on Ed Gein. Well, yeah, because Calvin Beck did not keep his mother preserved, her dead body, you know, in the house like Ed Gein did. So in that case, it's also based on Ed Gein, but anyway. So the first thing that, all right, it has the original logo. It's got the strip on the bottom, which was done back in the 60s. I don't know this movie from, but that's the monster. I would have, since it's a monster magazine, I would have made the monster head bigger instead of the guy that's about to be killed by the monster giant. I would have, it's kind of backwards. This head should have been smaller and the monster head should have been bigger. But that's just a little observation. Let me see. So this kind of looks like the interior pages. This is very thick, by the way. When I say interior pages of the original thing that came out in the 60s, issue 38, yeah, they're using the original. It looks pretty authentic. The print is tiny, smaller than I can read without my reading glasses on, which is reflective of the way the original magazine was. It was very dense with text, which was great. And it had lots of reviews of movies and tons of movies. When Michael Weldon wrote the Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film, and when he later made the Psychotronic magazine, he based it on Calvin Beck's Castle of Frankenstein. And as far as, a movie comes on at 3 in the morning on UHF channel, and you want to know I've never heard of this movie before, you could find it in the Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film, or you could find it more than likely in the movie reviews that would be alphabetized in the back of Castle of Frankenstein. Okay, here's an article on this guy that did these covers from the 1970s, these wraparound covers for Castle of Frankenstein. I never knew that guy's name, Michael Boas. He did this Frankenstein, this Planet of the Apes cover as well. This is outstanding, what I'm seeing here. Can't wait to read this. So this is, this is meeting with my approval. It's got some comic art in it, which is something that the original Castle of Frankenstein did as well. This is good artwork. I mean, this down here is almost traced from a Dave Stevens panel from The Rocketeer, but this is really good. It looks like it's inspired by John Michael McCarthy's art. It's not quite as good, but it's good. I mean, it's It's got Betty Page. I mean, it's obviously the people that put this magazine together understand me and how I think and how other people like you think. If you're watching this show, you probably think a lot like me. Anyway, that's Castle Frankenstein number 38. I don't know. You could order it from the Scary Monsters website, or maybe get your local comic shop to order it. I doubt many do order this. I bet it's at Barnes & Noble, but I wouldn't know because I live at least an hour away from the nearest mall. So what do I know? Nothing. Nothing, I tell you. Okay. So I'm showing you what I got from Gotham City Comics. This is a facsimile, also known as a fake comic. It's the new thing in comic. I mean, I do not like modern comic books. I've told you that a million times. And when I say modern comic books, that starts a lot earlier than most of you. I started to get sour on comics when, really about the time that they keep talking in Marvel Comics about, hey, we've got a Spider-Man TV show, and then I see it, and it's just, this is nothing like the comic, and I was so disappointed. And, I mean, the Hulk TV show was at least a good TV show. It just wasn't a good Hulk TV show. It was a good, like, fugitive kind of thing, and trying to get the camera straight. Damn, I'm fat. It's ridiculous. I don't really notice how fat I'm becoming when I don't do a show for a while. But I'm not feeling as much pain with the arthritis garbage as I was. I'm getting around better now. And I'm glad that passed. That was a horrible phase. Still have a little bit of a cough after all those weeks ago. Okay. Yeah, so I get let down by that. And then Marvel starts doing all these comic books based on toys. You know, it's like, okay. And then there's a G.I. Joe comic, and I don't know. Early 80s, it just, something about comics. There's still a lot of great comics coming out. And then there's this beautiful looking comic called Crisis on Infinite Earths. And it's like, hey, surprise. Everything you've ever loved about DC Comics is now forgotten, and then they started Superman over, and it's like, I didn't care for any of that, and I bought other kinds of comics. I bought old comics, like Doom Patrol. In fact, I have the original comic that this is a reprint of. Except I was looking at it, and one of the staples is a little bit, you know, almost barely hanging on. I thought, well, they put out a fake Doom Patrol number 99 with the first appearance of Beast Boy. Why not get it? And see, DC knows what they're doing. This looks pretty real. Notice no UPC code. They they hide it on the back, which is great. Marvel does these facsimiles too, which from what I understand, talking to comic shop owners, these are selling just as well, if not better, than these new comics that these weird, strange people write and create. See, it's got the original G.I. Joe ad and everything. It's pretty amazing, and it actually feels like comic book paper. It's just that's all they should do. If I ran DC, I would just start reprinting old comics, and that was all I would do. So, anyway, I think they chose to reprint this because Beast Boy is in some big storyline that's happening in DC Comics right now, something like that. I wouldn't know. So I bought this and all that. So I'll just put it in there with my Doom Patrol collection. I know it's pretty weird to buy a facsimile of something you already own, but I never said I was sane. Okay. some people say this is an early issue of Iron Man. No, it isn't. It's from the late 60s. But these people that buy comics, I don't want to get off on another rant. I guess everybody can collect comics however they want, but people say, Iron Man #1, it's such a key issue. That was a late issue. Iron Man appeared for years in another comic called Tales of Suspense. Those were the classic Iron Man adventures, the adventures that were made into the cartoon in 1966 from Grand Tree Lawrence. Those were all in Tales of Suspense. So this is actually later period. But I've never had this issue, and it's something I like to read, and I think the cover's great. It was marked $24.99. He gave it to me for $10. And the great thing about this, everything's great about it, from the Johnson Smith ad on the first page to the fact, man, look at this artwork. Okay, Archie Goodwin's the writer, George Tuska's the artist. The inker is Johnny Craig, and some of these early, I'm calling them early, and some of these, once Iron Man got his own title and they started in the single digits before, early on in this run of Iron Man's solo comic, Johnny Craig, who had been an artist for EC Comics, did pencils or inks alternating in this. So Marvel wasn't really crazy about Johnny Craig's art. I think it's wonderful. They also weren't crazy about Wally Wood in the early Daredevil, and he did some horror stuff, and the artwork is just beautiful. And Charlton 66 sent me an early Iron Man as just a gift as well. So I'd like to get, probably never be able to afford Iron Man #1, but I'd like to get more of these Iron Man comics that have Johnny Craig art. I just think it's beautiful. And this one's not in the most amazing condition, but it's holding together, and it's perfectly good copy to read. And if you want all your comic books to be pristine and look brand new, I mean, we are so this comic is almost as old as me. I was born in 1965, so I'm 58. This comic's about 56, 55 years old. So whenever you have an old comic like this, or you have a Golden Age comic that's like 80, 85 years old or 70 years old, you've got to be aware that I don't know how to put this where it's not corny, but that comic book meant something to somebody, like something. It wasn't just like, I had all these old comic books and I just put them in the closet and they stayed there for 85 years. That comic book was probably something precious to someone. Sometimes old things. I used to work with this librarian, and this librarian had all these old toys, perfectly preserved, old stagecoaches and Roy Rogers and all these Western toys from the 50s when he was a kid. He kept them perfectly. He kept the boxes because he was from a poor family, and he preserved it because it's like, will I get another? So that was important to him. Or it just might be that he just loves the Western genre. Comics that have been saved, and if you buy comics from the original owner or from the children of the original owner, those are objects that were sacred. I don't like to use the word sacred. That sounds almost blasphemous, but they mattered to someone, that they kept them their whole lives, in pretty good shape or in great shape because they treasured them. That's the word I'm looking for, treasured. And so I watch shows on YouTube. It's just constructive criticism where people will show books. Oh, I paid $2,000 for this. It was a bargain. I got it from mycomicshop.com, or I talked this person down on eBay. I don't. Some people like to hear, oh, I was going through a dollar bin and I found this key issue. I looked it up on my app and look how that. What I would do is old comics that have made it till today without being thrown out or burned or whatever, just tossed out as trash. I realize that comic has a history, and I may not know the history. If it's a comic I bought off the rack, like the first appearance of Ghost Rider, when I was in second grade, well, I know its history because I'm the original owner. So that comic means a lot to me. And I hate Disney the way it is now, but I think those early Toy Story, actually probably all the Toy Story movies, I understand this new. It's the name of the guy, not Roger Ramjet, the Buzz Lightyear. The Buzz Lightyear movie I hear is garbage, but the real Toy Story movies kind of show my philosophy, which is that it might be an insane philosophy, is that these comics and these toys have a life to themselves because someone has loved them so much that there's almost life in them. Someone's love is there in those comics, even though they passed on. They're looking down. Oh, you're preserving my comic books. Thank you. Or are you just sending them off to CGC, never to open them again? And I guess you're still preserving them. I mean, I look at all of us as museum curators. I've got a museum here. It's not a very good museum. I've got some comics. I don't have the big valuable ones. But I love what I've got, but I know I see people spending thousands and they don't even understand because they see, I'm trying to get all the key issues from this era, the key issues of this, that, and they don't even know what they read. Oh, it's a key issue. It's the first appearance of blah. I need to shut up. But if you can't even pronounce the name of the person whose first key appearance is in that issue, then that comic doesn't mean anything to you. Comics, this is amazing because I love the characters. I love the time period of the 60s. And the comics that I have from when I was a kid, I look at it, I look at this issue of The Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, when I bought this, the Carpenters were on the radio. When we were driving to the store, when I bought this issue of The Amazing Spider-Man, it was the first time I ever heard Top of the World with Karen Carpenter's beautiful voice. Speaking of older music, the Mamas and the Papas, California Dreaming, beautiful song, California Dreamin', right? Originally, they had that song out as a 45 for Barry Maguire, the guy that did Eve of Destruction. You tell me over and over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on. Well, he sang that song, stopped into a church, I passed along the way. And then the Mamas and the Papas, they were the backup singers. They were just singing the background vocal tracks with Barry Maguire doing it. His rough voice. And the record company realized, hey, the singers in the background are much better. Let's cut Barry Maguire's vocal and let's just bring up their voices and just put out a 45 of them. And that's how that started. Anyway, look at this, another facsimile for this pre-code horror comic. Anyway, there is when you hear that song, California Dreamin', which you've heard a million times, What I've always heard is I stopped into a church I passed along the way. Well, I got down on my knees and I began to pray. Oh, the preacher lights the coals. He knows I'm gonna stay. California dreaming on such a winter's day. He's in New York. He's dreaming about getting back to LA. It's super cold. I got down on my knees and I began to pray. And to me, it's almost like a spiritual song, right? And the preacher sees this guy coming in from the cold. Okay, this guy's going to be here a while. So he lights the coals to make it warm. Okay. So if you look up that song online, you'll see the lyrics as they're written was, I got down on my knees and I pretend to pray. The preacher likes the cold. He knows I'm going to stay. That's supposed to be the actual lyrics. And so you listen to the song again and you say, well, yeah, that actually might be what he's singing. Sometimes it's so hard to hear, to understand in a song. But I've always heard the other thing. And then you read, and there are people that agree with me, and they say, well, Mama Cass, when she sang on the original recording and when she in concert for a long time, she sang, I began to pray. Even though, he says maybe he's singing, I pretend to pray, but then she's saying, I began to pray. I don't know. To me, it's still a beautiful song either way. Just a gorgeous, heavenly song, like something out of, heaven. But if it is the other way, I pretend to pray, I'm going in there, I'm this hippie, cold, I just want to get in there and be in a place that's warm, so I pretend like I'm praying so I can be warm. And then you say, well, the preacher likes that it's cold because it brings the hippies in, and then maybe they'll be saved. I like the preacher thinks, oh, it's great that it's cold. We're getting some of these sinners in here. They may be pretending to pray, but maybe something will click and they'll be saved. So that's a little bit more of a cynical way. I think that's actually the way the song was written, though. But I've always heard, I began to pray, the preacher lights the coals, and it could be likes the cold, I don't know. But that's such an old-fashioned thing. People don't think about heating houses with coal anymore. But back in 1965, when that thing came out, a lot of people still heated their houses with coal. The only house we ever lived in was in Seattle, Tacoma, Washington. And I remember it had a coal chute. And I remember listening to old episodes of The Shadow, and it was always sponsored by the Blue Coal Company. So I knew that coal used to be a product that people needed for their houses. And they'd have a chute where you could dump the coal down into your basement and shovel it in your furnace, whatever. Oh, anyway, this is an issue you could never afford. That you can see, like normal people can't afford it, but some people can because Joe Biden's economy is making us all rich, right? So, I don't know. But this is being done by Roy Thomas's company, PS Art Books. They put out 4 of these in the same day, and I put them in my pile, but this is the first one I bought. So, the reproduction's as good as they could do. It's shot from the original comic. You're not going to find the original artwork. It's not perfect, but it's readable. It's, these are, I don't remember, $12, $14. It's expensive, but it's, the real comic's probably, I don't know, what would it be? Over $1,000? Gotta be. Ooh, Basil Wolverton. Oh, man. More Basil Wolverton. Man, this doesn't seem like a very thick comic. This is all that kids got for their dime. Maybe that's the way it was. I don't know. So, this is another thing I got for Christmas. Yeah. All right. And by the way, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year and all that. My wife's not really that much into Christmas because of, childhood stuff and also just the fact that it's actually a pagan holiday. And a lot of people kind of realize that. But if people don't know it started as a pagan holiday, if people say, oh yeah, Jesus Christ was born on December 25th, and they really believe it, and they really have Christ in their hearts, and they really honor Christ on that day and think about that, then is it a bad thing, or is it not good because it came from a worship of Saturn and it's got all these pagan elements, like obviously Santa Claus being based on Odin and Odin's horse, flying horse with the 8 legs. Instead we got reindeer flying, 8 flying reindeer, and it's all very the Yule log, and it's all the bringing the tree into your house, very pagan origins. And they say that they've actually, you're going to think I'm crazy, but they've actually, okay, so this star appeared in the heavens that brought the wise men and everyone, so that people knew something was happening, that Christ was born, right? So say, when was there something like that in the heavens? And they have figured out that Christ was probably born, according to these people, September 11th, 3 BC. So Christmas really should be on September 11th. Now, there are people that know this stuff. There's a lot of knowledge that people have that's hidden away, kind of Raiders of the Lost Ark style. There are people that know a lot of stuff that's kind of kept from us. And that's could be why September 11th was chosen for that horrible event, because they knew that what that day really meant. Oh, whatever. Yeah, you just think I'm nuts, don't you? Okay, here's Batman number 5, which is why is this a key issue? Why, it's the first appearance of the Batmobile. I never heard of key issue. Really, I was watching Silver Age Dave. Was one of the first comic book people I started watching on YouTube. He doesn't do his show anymore. I'm not sure. He's just seemed to have disappeared about a year or so ago. But one time on his show, he says, do you guys out there collect key issues, or are you run collectors? And I thought, well, had to figure out what all that meant. But he was pointing out back then what now I find so horrifying is that some people just buy only key issues. Like anything that's not a key issue, they have no interest in. Anyway, it's really cool to see these comics that no one could ever afford reprinted. It's just a lot of fun. What I like to see on YouTube is original owners of comics talking about that comic, how they got it, or talking about how they started collecting comics, what it was. Certain people do that really well. Meyer Greenblatt, the Crypt Keeper of Castle Hills doesn't have a channel anymore on YouTube, but he would do that. I don't care that you found something in a dollar bin last Thursday. I want to see something you bought in 1974 or 1966. So that's why I was so fascinated by this panel at the Dallas Fantasy Fair, where Buddy Saunders, the owner of mycomicshop.com and Lone Star Comics, you can see it on YouTube. If you just look for Dallas Fantasy Fair, Buddy Saunders, he is talking about collecting comics in the 60s in the town that I, for the most part, grew up in from 6th grade on through a couple of years ago. I lived in this town, Arlington, Texas, and it was fascinating for him to talk about where he lived and the stores that he would go to pick up the Marvel comics. And now I like to hear stories like Billy Mummy, Lost in Space Kid. It's Billy Mummy. That's what I've always said. Then I think, well, is it Mummy? It's Mummy, I think. Anyway, he was a comic book collector when he was a kid, when he was about the time he was doing Lost in Space, and he would go to Cherokee Books in Los Angeles on the weekend when they weren't filming Lost in Space and pick up probably books like this and all the Silver Age Marvels that were coming out at the time, because we're talking like mid-60s, right at the height of that. The original book would be bigger than this, but anyway, it's pretty cool to have this. So, because it would have been a little bit bigger, the print is a very small for a 58-year-old person's eyes. Mine get worse every day. So I'm going to have to use my reading glasses from Dollar General. Anyway, so I like to hear stories about... It's got the Joker in here too. How about that? Let's find the Batmobile page. Oh, look at this ad for... the house ad for All-Star Comics. How about that? Oh, shit. Oh, shoot. This music isn't good. It's modern music. Well, modern being 1970s. That's modern to me. That's probably going to get me a copyright claim. Son of a biscuit. Oh, my gosh. So, how are you guys been doing? Fantastic, I hear. That's great. I'm glad that you're doing well. What am I? Oh, I'm on my wife's account. So, I'll do some more episodes this weekend, and I'll try to get on Graphic Man's 4-Color Fossils next week. I feel like a rat fink. It's probably been 5 weeks since I've been on that show. Last week, they only had 4 people on there. I felt like a bum, man. I should be on there, but I just didn't want to leave my wife alone, man. It's a long story. But I'm real happy getting lots of appearances from Donald Trump on Right Side Broadcasting. I'm not sure if you're supposed to say his name on here, because I think the algorithm, if they hear you say Donald Trump, they'll bury your show. Or if you're monetized, they may take away your monetization. So what I'm hearing, David Nino Rodriguez has a show on YouTube, and he's very careful now. He says they're really watching. So now he says Mr. T instead of Donald Trump, and it's like everybody's so scared. It's like all of a sudden we don't have freedom of speech. I hope you realize that and vote accordingly. It's just ridiculous. Okay, whatever. Enough politics, because it upsets people. Maybe you need to be upset, especially if you voted for Biden, man. I don't think anyone voted for him, but actually there were people stupid enough because they didn't like the mean tweets. Oh man, supposedly the Batmobile's in here. Anyway, so yeah, I was watching a show like a bunch of people were showing comics, and this one person said, this is the first appearance of Uncle Scrooge in this comic, and the other person said, oh, it was on like one of these Zoom-looking StreamYard things, and the other person said, oh, I have that comic, but mine's slabbed. I've never seen inside the comic. Could you open up your book? and show me the panel where Uncle Scrooge first appears? And the person, because they were having a Christmas party, had a few beers, and so he says, oh, okay, so he opened up the book and accidentally dropped and damaged it to show the person that had slabbed his book. And it's like, that guy should just break his slab open and look at his own book, you know. Someone's drinking, don't make them open their vintage Golden Age comics. Oh, well. That's all right. I need to shut up because I'm talking about people that are friends, and I forget that people actually watch this show and get offended. Okay. I just can't stand slabbing. Slabbing is bad. Yeah, I just bought a bunch of things just to read, and I got this Lois Lane comic. I don't have this issue. Because this is my era, the 20-cent era, man. That's my era. That's my time period. That's the time period I look at and I smile, because I just realized a couple of days ago that the 1973-74 school year was my third grade year, and that was the year where it all clicked. That was the year I got into superhero comics instead of just monster comics before, in second grade and before. That was the year that I discovered Wacky Packages. That was the year I really discovered Star Trek and started watching it, and Lost in Space. And the Treasury editions came out, and everything happened. It was just... Was that one? Oh, that was the year I got into Planet of the Apes, because they started showing them on CBS there in September of 73. That was the year everything happened, man. Living in San Antonio, that's why I connect so well with the Crypt Keeper of Castle Hills, and I wish he would bring his show back, because he was living in San Antonio then too, and he was into the same stuff I was. I just never met him. We went to different schools. If for some alternate timeline happened where my father never got orders and left San Antonio and decided to retire in San Antonio, maybe I would have spent my whole life, maybe I'd still be in San Antonio, my mother's hometown, where I was born. And you know, all those years I would have met the Crypt Keeper at some point, you know, just in comic stores, without a doubt. Someone with that many similar interests. I got to find people with similar interests that live here. I wish that some of you would retire. I mean, we can't afford to retire. I tried, but I got sucked right back into working. But if you guys retire and move to this town, then we could develop a little real community of interesting people. Oh, some of these I don't think I need to open. I'll just show you some Batman family comics I got we're still showing Gotham City comics. I haven't gotten to, and I just got about 3 or 4 Batman families. And then Kevin threw in some extra books. He threw in a 20-cent era Uncle Scrooge. Wow. Sorry, it's wonderful. This is a book that was in my hold pile that I was eventually going to buy, but he just threw in. It's The Lone Rider. It's obviously a Lone Ranger imitation from the early 1950s. It's been altered a little bit. Some bored kid took a ballpoint pen and filled in all of that. But it actually kind of looks... this kid, maybe he went on to become a graphic designer, because I think it actually makes the red letters pop a little bit. It's not that I'm saying, oh, well, hey, I love the fact that the kid destroyed the front cover. I don't think it looks bad, because look, I look at comics as having the personalities of the original owners. And like I was getting off on that tangent about Toy Story, and then I think I forgot about it. The toys are loved by this child, and they are precious. And I have toys that I had as a kid, and I never had a dog or a cat until I was in my 40s. Yeah. My parents didn't let me have dogs and cats. I mean, my dad had a big giant aquarium with fish, but you don't bond with fish. So I bonded with these stuffed animals, and I still have them. And they were I had my ranks. There were the ones that were the number one. There was a teddy bear that came down from my older brothers from the 50s. And then there was this little fox that comes from German comic books that we got when we lived in Germany. He was there, and this little brown dog. I'll show them all to you. You may think I'm insane. I've shown them to you before. But to me, they were like my main toys that were like the heads of the toy community in my childhood bedroom, right? And what they do in Toy Story, which I think they did it in Toy Story 2 or 3, which I thought was masterful. They showed one of the 1950s toy line that went with Woody, because he was based on a 1950s kids show, Western show. That was a prospector, and there was an old store stock prospector toy that had never come out of the package. No kid had ever played with him, and he turned out to be evil and the villain of the piece. And that's my whole point. When you slab your comics, you're turning them evil. You're damaging the brains, the minds, the souls of those comic books being trapped in plastic. Would you like to be trapped in plastic? That might be, maybe we could revive EC Comics and have a story where the comic collector becomes slabbed in plastic at the end. That would be great. Anyway, look at this beautiful stuff. The rest of the comic's in great shape. This comic was loved. This comic was actually preserved by a woman that her son brought her collection in to Gotham City Comics, and this might have come from the brothers' collection, but I don't know. It might be. Girls are into westerns too, and girls used to collect comics too. It's very few and far between girls that collect comics today. But beautiful artwork in here. Lone Rider. I have another issue of Lone Rider. Oh, this is always weird when the first page is an ad. But that's kind of good because the ink kind of went through to the first page, but it doesn't affect anything because there's no art there. Now some people, they have a little bit of pencil mark or some dirt. It's like, oh, I'm going to take the cover off. I'm going to surgically remove the staples, and I'll soak it in chemicals or detergent and get that dirt off. But man, that's vintage dirt. That's dirt that was on the hands of a 9 or 10-year-old in 1953 or 1946. That's vintage dirt, man. Why would you get rid of the fingerprints, the dirt from the original owner? That dirt is cool. Accept it. It's part of the history of the comic. What year is this from? Oh, I should really have my magnifying glass when I do these shows. Man. I think it says 1953. I just realized that's an ad for a bullwhip. How many of you are asking Santa for that? Hey, how about this elf on the shelf trend? This has become an official part of, if you've been around any children in the last 20 years, somebody wrote a book, probably billionaires now, called Elf on the Shelf. So the new thing is, kids are being told an elf will appear in your house at around Thanksgiving or around that time, and what you need to do is, every morning that elf is going to be in a different spot. It might be over there. The next day that elf will be in it, and so every night, it gets moved by magical forces, and the elf is watching you at all times and reporting back to Santa. They're scout elves, and that's the new thing. And it's weird because I didn't grow up with that. It's a new Christmas tradition that will probably keep going. But if you were around in the late 40s or early 50s, You think, well, where did this Rudolph stuff come from? And Rudolph was created by, that was a song, Gene Autry sang on a record, but it was done for the Montgomery Ward Company. They're the ones that came up with the Rudolph thing, and it's stuck, and now Rudolph is part of everyone knows that Rudolph is the lead reindeer of Santa's sleigh. I mean, everyone, it's my age or even a little older. Rudolph has become an accepted addition to the Christmas tradition, and now the elf on the shelf, whatever you think of that, has been added. And the elf is based on that 1950s mid-century design elf that used to be on the, hung from a lot of trees. He also included this Walt Disney Comics and Stories as a little free Christmas bonus. So that was another wonderful thing he did. Look at this, man. You gotta just pick up the phone and call Gotham City Comics. Just look him up in Mesa, Arizona. Look how white the pages are in this book. Oh, I need music. Oh, did I just see Magica Dispel? No, I didn't. I did not, ladies and gentlemen. This is another facsimile that came out recently, and I think it was, this is because of an Aquaman story, and usually when they do these facsimiles, it's because they're trying to tie it in with something that's coming. Why did they unsubscribe me from Pirate Radio USA? They're unsubscribed. Whenever someone gets a little too popular, they unsubscribe. Oh, 2 episodes ago, I had like 270 views, and then I wake up and I look at it and I have 180 views. They took away 90 views, and now it's gradually gotten up to about 230 views. But it's weird though. YouTube is strange, or they'll unsubscribe. Maybe they just don't want anybody to be super popular, because then they have to pay them more money or something. This is facsimile of Adventure Comics, number 360. Okay, we've got a greener. It's just it feels like comic book paper. The colors really pop. Oh, wow. It's it's Aquaman's story, how Aquaman got his powers. I think it's I think it may be the first Silver Age appearance of Aquaman. And since Aquaman is coming out next week, the second Aquaman that was made years ago. In fact, they're advertising it on television being in 3D. It's like, 3D? That fad died before the pandemic, and or during the pandemic. And I guess they're, since they shot it in 3D, they're releasing it in 3D as a gimmick to get people. I don't think the commercials look good. I don't like that they're not going to put trying to cut out Amber Heard as much as possible because people don't like her from the Johnny Depp lawsuit. I mean, she looked good as that character, and that character is important to the Aquaman story, so I don't think they should mess with that. But 20, 30 years from now, no one's going to remember that Amber Heard controversy, and it'll just be forgotten. It's like my wife and I watched Roman Holiday with Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn the other night. My wife's really into Audrey Hepburn. Most women are. And it's a great movie. And then you see in the credits, written by Dalton Trumbo. But if you watch that movie in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s on television, it didn't say written by Dalton Trumbo. It had a different name. It wasn't until the early 2000s, or maybe around 2011, that they somehow went in and digitally altered the opening credits of Roman Holiday and put his name in. He used someone as a fake name. He got some friend of his to put his name on, and then he took them. I guess he took the money, and they paid his friend, and then he gave the money to him because he was blacklisted in Hollywood because he was a communist. And it wasn't that he was being accused of being communist. He had been a hardcore communist, like big time. But he wrote some of the greatest movies. He was a great screenwriter. He wrote Spartacus and all of these movies. I think Spartacus, they actually gave him credit. And that's how they kind of broke the blacklist. Of course, now everyone pretty much knows that the people in Hollywood are communists and socialists. But back then, people were still not too happy. That was, in the 50s. Pagan Holiday, great movie. I don't want to ruin the movie for you, but you expect it's going to have one ending, and then you realize, it ends the way it really should, because it ends in a realistic way, the way it kind of has to. And if they had not ended it that way, you would think, that's hokey. But and it really haunts you the way it ends, and it's a very romantic movie and everything, and I recommend it to you. Of course, we watched it streaming on some streaming channel, which I hate. You guys got to buy. I'm going to tell my wife, go buy that DVD or that Blu-ray. We've got to hoard and forget comic books. Buy DVDs, because they don't want you to own these movies. And if you own it digitally, they can take it away from you at any time. It's not real ownership. Don't trust me. You should have walls and walls of movies if you're a real person. Boy, look at these dark rings in my eyes. I didn't realize how bad it's getting. Okay, is there anything else in this package? Yes, there is. The biggest thing. The Pièce de Résistance, which all of you already have, which is Adventures into Terror. But I just now got it. This is my main Christmas present. It's reprints of 1950s pre-code Marvel horror, when Marvel was called Atlas Comics. And it's gorgeously done, and that's because Marvel didn't put this book out. It was put out by Fantagraphics, people that actually care about comics and their history, unlike the vermin that run Marvel now. So it's gorgeous. Reproduction, fantastic. I haven't really hardly even looked at any of this stuff until right now, even though I got it. Usually when I order from Gotham City Comics, I get everything in about 2 or 3 days. But this took almost a week, which is long, and it's not his fault. It's just the post office is, I guess because it's near Christmas, is starting to slow down. Or they may be telling the post office to slow down because as we come closer to an election, it's important that the post office is slow, and that way people will believe it when they say, oh, look, these votes took a long time to get to where they're going to be counted. And people say, oh, yeah, that's right, the post office is really slow. And then you believe it when all of a sudden trucks show up a week later. Oh, look at all of these votes. Why are they all for the same person? Not that that would ever happen in our democracy. Look at this, man. It's just great. These are the type stories that they would reprint in the early 70s in those Vault of Evil and those horror comics. So this is going to be fantastic reading. This is a book that you need in your library. Now I'm going to show you the stuff that was sent to me by Charlton 66. So let me put this stuff back. Oh boy. Hold on. Yeah. So seriously, put down below what you do you agree with me on that California Dreamin'? That I stopped into a church, I passed along the way, I got down on my knees and I began to pray. The preacher lights the coals. I'm telling you, that's what I've always thought. And I could play it for you now, but then I probably wouldn't be able to upload this video because even if I play just a little bit, they, although I don't know, people play these reaction videos. I'm listening to the Beatles for the first time. Boy, it's good. You know, those videos, and it's like, how do they get to play that music? And I go to the state fair and some music's playing in the background and I can't upload it to YouTube. I don't know why that is, but appears to be the way it is. Some people think Paul McCartney died in the 60s and there's been an imposter ever since. You ever hear that story? I'll tell you, Paul McCartney, a genius, but I'm telling you, there are some Christmas songs that are so bad. Obviously, that Mariah Carey one, horrible. But I'm telling you that Paul McCartney Christmas song, Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time, is one of the worst songs I've ever heard in my life. And this new Beatles song that they've, that's no good. If it was good, John Lennon would have done something with that tape. I don't know, man. Oh. Okay. Oh. Here we go. Well, I'll just show these from a distance. He sent me bags and boards, so look at all these boards and bags. So this weekend when I do some episodes of this show while I'm waiting for Donald Trump to come on Saturday, you can watch me bag and board comics because I don't have any place locally I could get these. I mean, I guess I could get it from Amazon. That's what he did. So I guess I shouldn't say there's no place for me to do it. And he sent this because he's the nicest guy in the world. Actually, all the four-color fossils are wonderful people. This is a Dracula action figure. Now, Bela Lugosi had been a socialist in Hungary, right? But I forgive him because when you're a starving actor and socialism comes along and they say, we're going to keep you permanently employed as an actor. You're not going to have to worry about ever making your rent or sleeping on a park bench or doing whatever you have to do for money. You'll always be guaranteed an income. And so he was like all on board with that when, you know, for a few months they had like a communist socialist kind of revolution. You know, anyway, enough, forget that. We're not going to remember Bela Lugosi in a negative way. But I didn't know that until recently when I was watching some documentary about him. Okay, so you got three heads as a choice. You know, the head that is on him is this head. But the other heads look pretty cool too. I don't know. What do you guys think of action figures with multiple heads and multiple hands? The anal retentive in me, the obsessive compulsive, it's like, well, which head is the best head? Oh, that doesn't sound right. Sorry. I'm not trying to be, anyway. Yeah. I'll never live that one down. Anyway, so this is from NECA. NECA has apparently just put out the Monsterizer from the probably 80s, not 70s. Let me show you that. They have a commercial on YouTube for it. I found out about this from Dark Ride Dracula. What you've got to do right now, stop the video and go type in Dark Ride Dracula on YouTube and subscribe to that channel. The guy that runs that channel, I believe his name is Andy. His wife, no, they're not married. I don't think they're married. His girlfriend is named Amy Vampy. And I've been friends with her on Facebook for years because she's this girl that's into all monster stuff. And she met a perfect guy that's into all the monster stuff. And they go to monster conventions and they go around the country looking for dark rides to film. And they went to the famous Monsters Convention in, I think, Philadelphia recently, and have great footage of that. If you like this channel, you'll like that. Now they're starting to do live streams where you can interact with them and, you know, comment. So that's great. But in the last live stream, he shows the, and apparently, I guess you have to special order it, and they're probably going to sell out. But anyway, they made some thing called the Monsterizer back in the 80s for these little, I think for the Remco monster action figures. I don't know, don't get me lying. But anyway, they made a reproduction of it. A facsimile. So, there it is, Monsterizer NECA. Hold on, I'll show it to you. I'll just point to you at the television. See, I'm standing up and I'm not groaning, but it is. I still hear the cracking of my knees when I get up. Okay, so the NECA Studios Monsterizer with light up effects, stop motion. Okay, this is their commercial. Okay, and here's one of the original rare 1980s play sets. It's the Remco Mini Okay, so Remco, I guess that's the original. I guess, I don't know. Anyway, here's the commercial for the new thing. We are a community. Non-stop commercials on YouTube. Non-stop, never ends.
Your monster friends are out of power.
Let me rewind.
Your monster friends are out of power. Fear not, the NECA Monsterizer is here. Roll the wheel to extend the platform. Buckle up your monster and roll it back in. Close the hatch and turn off the switch and watch your monsters power up with real lights. Well, then we can terrorize again. It's the only NECA Monsterizer with 3 big buttons and 4 different light-up options. Monsters of sympathy, new from NECA.
Anyway, NECA. Let's see if there's a commercial for the Dracula I just got on here, which is a wonderful Christmas present, by the way. Again, thank you.
Fear not, the NECA Monsterizer is here. Roll the wheel to extend.
Let's see what they've done here. They do a lot of garbage like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Well, no offense if you like that kind of thing. And, okay. Yeah, oh, there's a... Well, I don't consider that the Misfits, but I guess most people would. To me, that's always going to be the Crimson Ghost from the old movie serials. I got a Creature from the Black Lagoon action figure. Oh, you know what I guess I should do is type in... It sounded like they were saying something else there. So anyway, how have you guys been doing? What time is it? It is now almost 8 o'clock. I need to end this show pretty quick. I don't normally do these shows at night. But I'm typing in Dracula NECA. Oh, I'll show you some vintage Christmas decorations since it's almost Christmas. When I haven't done a show in a while, it's like I have to just vomit forth everything. It's like, oh, I forgot to tell you this, that, well, everything I've been thinking about since I last did a show, but haven't been able to share it with you. Dracula NECA. Okay, here it is. Is this the same figure? Let's see.
Rated T.
I was abducted by the RDA.
Oh, shut up. Do you like this Avatars? I've never watched it, but it just doesn't look like it would entertain me.
Pandora available now.
Oh, how wonderful. Yeah. PlayStation. Here we go. What happened? Internet. Poor internet. There we go.
It's the only Universal Monsters Dracula Ultimate action figures. Comes with swappable parts and accessories. Accessory set also available from NECA.
So you can get an accessory set with a coffin and stuff. Huh. Here's a 19-minute video. Someone reviewed it. Let's see how many reviews. They've had 10,000 views. Maybe I should do a video where I just review one thing and I could get 10,000 views. Oh, let me show you Dark Ride Dracula while we're doing this. He always likes my Instagram a lot. I wonder if he knows, if he's ever seen my they. Why am I saying he? It's a couple. I wonder if they have seen my YouTube channel. But I sure enjoy their channel. What is it? Oh, Dark Ride. Oh, I should show you David Nino Rodriguez, too. There they are. This one. See, they did this. They showed the Monsterizer on their. They went on live for 3 days ago for an hour and 40 minutes. There's so many commercials. They've really added more commercials lately to YouTube.
That's like the only real job I ever had was working for Toys R Us. So it's like, you know.
Anyway, so this is them, and they have all kinds of cool shows. There's the Famous Monsters Festival in